good.
Right, so last 10 years of my life have been interesting. Let me start with that.
Tell me about it.
We'll get to today. So February of 2014 is when BH Express was launched. I had been working in a customer service type of role in a call center, and that was my whole background prior to that. So companies that, taught me customer service, but every job that I had, I absolutely hated because it was just being on the phone all day. It felt like what you were doing was insignificant. It felt like whether you took care of this customer or didn't, it didn't make a difference. It was working for one of these huge companies. At one point it was a cell phone company, at one point it was cable internet and a home phone and stuff like that.
Right.
But when you're working for a company, man, that has millions of customers, it's hard to feel like your work, has any impact. But these are companies that have the customer service ingrained as just a part of their way, right? So my father had been a truck driver for about 15 years, pretty much since we moved to the U.S., like most. A lot of foreigners, a lot of Bosnians. Trucking in the U.S., I think, is more lucrative business than it is here.
Yeah, we can say that. Although when you take a bigger picture like Europe, it's more comparable to U.S. than it is just Bosnia.
Yeah. Over there, it's truck drivers, if they really want to bust their ass, they can make $250,000 a year, which is, like PhD level pay.
Wow.
Now, granted, a lot of that is then
Probably much more than PhD.
Yeah, depending on the field, but a lot of that obviously is diluted down,
Right.
But they can still keep over 100K, depending on the amount they work, depending on
After costs and everything.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Which again, like your typical college level, job, 50K is not uncommon. Like developers and stuff, like high fields, make 100 or close to 100. So yeah, it's a good opportunity. Obviously, it comes with the cost of being on the road and away from the family and all of that. And there's a whole different conversation there. How many families have been destroyed, because both parents are absent and the father is gone for extended periods, and everything that's happened in our society, the responsibilities and the roles of parents are mixed, and nobody ends up raising the kids and all of that kind of stuff. But that's a whole different conversation.
How do you jump into that? I mean, now you're in Bosnia, tomorrow you're flying back to US.
Yeah, literally.
Bosnia we still have some core fundamental values, old school values, when it comes to family, when it comes to neighbors, when it comes to just overall, when you're in public. And then you go back and I don't know, at the airport or somewhere, you're already struck by U.S. style.
Yeah, it hits you. I mean, literally, like as soon as you land on U.S. soil and you see the way people act, it's nothing crazy, but you just see different mannerisms, you see different approaches, you see different style of speech, and you get sucked back into that right away. It's tough, man. It's tough because days just pile on top of each other, People seldom have time to pause and reflect on what's going on and what path they're headed down. People like to just focus on what they've got going on now and assume that the future will take care of itself. But yeah, those traditional values are being stripped away in the U.S. and much of the whatever you want to call it, what's it called?
First world
countries.
Yeah.
I mean, the countries that are supposed to be leading us, humanity, they're leading us down a dark path, I think.
Right.
And I think in 5 or 10 years, when you look at the way people, just everything, man, with AI, it's a whole new thing now. But we'll get there. So I want to finish the story. So we opened BH Express. no knowledge of the industry. The first load we got, I think, took us like, I want to say it, about 10 days of bidding. I mean, literally, like first day is just me going to Google and saying, like typing how to find loads, just
Wow.
completely new. You call a company and you don't know what to say because you've never done the script.
And what was the investment? Like a $50,000 van?
Yeah. So my father bought 50K-ish van. He sold his truck. We spent a couple weeks building this hanging bed, which you could climb into from the front cab, because when you're doing on the road, when you're actually away from home and sleeping and living in the van, you got to have a place to sleep.
Right.
So I've never seen anyone build anything like it since then, right? Like imagine this is the front and there's the steering wheel, and you're the driver and I'm the passenger. Well, there's the seats. We built something where it was an open cab, and we put wood or whatever we put down here, and then up there we built like a hanging compartment type of thing. So you'd have to climb in from here.
It's similar to what they have in trucks, I guess. They climb up.
No, because in trucks there's a whole thing. You just walk in. Like with trucks, it's literally like you just walk into the back. There's no. With ours, if you go to the back of the cargo area, you could literally slide a pallet under the bed that we had hanging, and it was closed off and everything.
Oh.
So yeah, that was the investment. It took like 10 days to get that first load. We got to the pickup. Story I'll always remember, man, is the guy asked me, because the vehicle number we put was 001. He asked me, why 001? Why not just one? And I jokingly said, not believing it for a moment, one day we'll have triple-digit vehicles in the fleet. And like 6 months, I think, we drove together. We had all kinds of things. It was fun because the World Cup was going on in 2014.
Right.
So we ended up going to a bunch of truck stops, waiting for loads, looking for loads, and just watching games with a bunch of mostly foreigners, because that's
right.
Mostly who cares about soccer.
And
we got a second van then, and fast forward now, we got about 100 vehicles between our active and inactive and all of that in the fleet. 2019, so right before COVID, we opened Royal Blue Services here with the desire to hire some dispatch support. It was something I held out on doing forever because I didn't think that the customer service piece could be maintained. When people here are working with drivers and clients like 5,000 miles away. I didn't think a person who lives in a different continent can really care about the well-being and the situation of somebody in a different continent. But we decided to give it a try, and we've made it work, man. And then 3 years and some change later, you came into the picture, and it's been a fun journey.
Well, yeah, it has. I think first time I saw Royal Blue Services, it's a funny story, really. I saw an ad posted for a dispatcher customer service agent. It was July 2020, so like 9 months after the company was established here in Bosnia. I filled out some Google form. I didn't even send my CV. Next minute, some guy, sent over a Viber message saying, "Do you have a moment now? Do you have an hour now so we can meet and discuss this?" I said, "Yeah, we did it." Like an hour later, he said, "Come to the office." That's about it. So July 20th was the first day, I think, when I came out. That's the first office we had in the old town up there. And it's been almost 4 years now. So in a couple of months, it's going to be 4 years with RBS. In my professional life, this is the longest serving any company, and yeah, I'm loving it so far.
Yeah.
Long may it continue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome, man. You know, we talked about this a couple days ago. For me, um, it's more important to do this with people that I like, with people that I can share good moments and bad moments with people that I actually enjoy sitting down and drinking coffee with and talking about work and life and everything else. I've never been one to really separate, you know, professional and personal life too well. For me, I think part of it is, you know, professional life is such a big role for my personal life that it's hard to just hit a switch and say, you know, I can work with this guy at work even though I don't like him or even though I completely disagree with everything.
It's probably possible when you have 15, 20 employees. I guess, you know, companies out there, corporate, hundreds and hundreds of people, and they have to start thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about who you're working with primarily, right? Like, I'm sure Elon Musk doesn't interact too much with the factory worker, but I imagine that his upper management,
Right.
you know, it's probably people that he wants to like and all of that. So for me, like, it's very important to do this with people that I like, people that I can have a good, trusting relationship with. And we've had that, man, and it's been a blessing for me. You know, we talked about this too. Living in the U.S., I spend 2-3 months at most here in Boston, and it would be impossible for this thing to actually function if there was no manager who looked after it like it was his own company.
Right.
And that's what you've done, and you know I'm grateful for that, and I'm looking forward to that continued growth. It makes me excited to, you know, I mean, I live in this fantasy land where I want to build a company that has whatever amount of people here, right? 15, 20 people, 30, 50, 100, that are all pursuing the joint mission that we're on. And you know, we view it as all of us being in this boat and rowing together and everybody having their own role. And some people are in charge of this and other people are in charge of that, but we all understand that, you know, if we all work hard, you know,
Right.
good things await us all.
Yeah, BHX, of course, is a logistics company. Just if you can just go back like 2014 and then pre-COVID, let's say 2019 and then 2024, like situation in how it was back then when you just opened. Of course, you only had one vehicle back then, and then pre-COVID, like that. How do you call that period? I don't know. Everyone was making good money back then, and then now, how do you just you can have that? I only have 2020 to 2024, so
Yeah. I mean, so 2014, you're a baby trying to learn how to walk. And when I look back at the processes, when I look back at how we did things, it's funny because, you know, earlier you mentioned you applied and you got a message on Viber saying, hey, can you meet? And then you met and then you said, okay, can you know, come to the office? That was the infancy stage of our recruiting process. You know, our recruiting process now is far more, you know, flushed out and ironed out and everything. And every other process within the company went through the similar, you know, type of journey where at some point it was so basic and rudimentary, and then, you know, you improve and you innovate and you sharpen it, and then you get to a point where it's better. So that's what, I mean, 2014 is just complete trial and error. 6-ish months in, one of my father's, you know, friends, who was a truck driver, said, hey man, you know, how's the Sprinter van thing? I want to buy a Sprinter van and leave the truck. I don't like the log books. I don't like the weight stations and all the other complaints that truckers typically have.
Right.
And things that make them jump to a Sprinter van. So he did that. I mean, we gave him a fair warning and said, you know, we're a young company. Just this is what we're doing, loads-wise, money-wise. Feel bad the way it played out. I mean, ultimately, I benefited from it, but he bought a Sprinter. I think he drove for 2 weeks, and then he said, "You forget this. I like my big truck. I like the comfort. I like not waiting for loads. I like the money. I like everything." So he parked the Sprinter for a little bit of time, and then shortly after, we spoke, and I bought it off of him, and essentially just kept paying the bank payments until it was paid off, and that was it. So I don't know if he encountered a loss or not really, but after that, it was about 6 more months before we actually started having other people apply.
And money-wise, loads-wise,
yeah,
how was it?
they were paid much better. I remember when we had loads that were 600-700 miles, paid $1,200, $900, $1,000.
Wow.
Whereas now, 600 miles, you're getting between 500 and $650 at most.
Right.
If you're lucky, type of thing. So yeah, I mean, the industry as a whole has just gotten more and more competitive. Every day for the last 10 years, there's more vehicles on the road. It's an industry that I feel is very young, like the expedite, part of the logistics industry. And then in 2019, our best dispatcher at the time, named Haris, decided to leave the company. And this was a freaking superstar, man. He could do the job of 2-3 people, just one of those.
Right.
And then I was faced with either trying to replace him in the U.S. with maybe 2 people, or do this. In the U.S., I was struggling to find people that really wanted to build a career as a dispatcher. I think for most people, it's kind of an in-between type of thing.
Right.
Especially for us with having a lot of Bosnian drivers, needing someone who speaks the language, obviously speaks English as well. So we opened this, and then 4 months later, COVID hit. 4 or 5 months later, I think.
Yeah. Well, February 2020 is when we entered COVID.
Yeah. So that was insane too,
It was.
That
was a weird time, man. Yeah. Whole 2 years after, it's kind of erased from memory.
It was a very weird time, and a time that just shows like how little you understand the world. Because my own family, what's it called? Isolated, what's it called? When you don't mix or
yeah.
What do they call it?
I don't know, so you kind of lived
stayed away, yeah.
Stayed away.
We lived in one house. My parents lived downstairs. We lived upstairs, and we wouldn't drink coffee. We wouldn't for a couple weeks. It didn't go on for months and months.
Insane, man.
During that initial phase when they were just, saying like bodies are being found, and I can remember a story broke about how in Italy there were just truck full of dead bodies that they didn't know what to do.
Insane.
COVID.
Insane. When I look back at it, it was the first news and everything when it was going on. You had a feeling, there is something that in Europe people remember Spanish flu, 1920s, where millions of people died or whatever it was.
That's how it was being titled.
Yeah, and everyone thought, it's gonna be Spanish flu all over again. We need to protect ourselves and whatnot. And I know Western Europe, in particular, really took high precautions, and laws were very strict, and masks and whatnot. Here we had laws as well in Bosnia, but people tend to, after a couple of months, just tend to forget about it, and we're not that strict as, let's say, in Western Europe. But we had countries like Sweden. Sweden had no laws about it, so they just went normal, and their death rate or whatever, it was not, higher or than any other that was strict.
Well, that's where the whole thing started to crumble, when there's just inconsistencies with
Right. Yeah, inconsistent, like masks,
the
shots, everything was inconsistent.
They're supposed to protect, and then, they're not going to protect you, but they're not going to get it again. Well, you could get it again, but you're not going to spread it.
Right.
Well, you could spread it, but And I don't know, man, like the world of conspiracy theories just is yelling at you when it comes to COVID, and
It is.
I don't know where to go with it. I don't know
How
what to
did
do.
yes, sorry to interrupt. How did our drivers react? Like this
It
in
was
particular.
tough because a lot of drivers, I don't remember a number, man, but I want to say like half the fleet or more parked their van and said, I'm scared to drive. Because that's what it was. I mean, you're not supposed to go anywhere. You're not supposed to leave the house. You're not supposed to go grocery shopping. I mean, all these delivery things were more prevalent. In the U.S., they had a thing like a bunch of the grocery stores where you could pull up to the curbside, open your trunk, and they would just put your stuff in. So you wouldn't even have to get out of the vehicle, to buy. And it was specifically for COVID. So yeah, a lot of our drivers parked the van. Obviously, the whole industry, I mean, sort of felt it. But yeah, I mean, fast forward now, 2024, we're rocking and rolling.
Yeah, inflation is worse than COVID, I guess.
Yeah.
Because even with the COVID, I remember we had rates were fine, loads were good. Pretty much 2020, 2021 was very, very good. But Ukrainian Russian war and whatnot, inflation that hit afterwards, that's actually what really, really hurt everyone in the industry.
It sucks for drivers, man. I feel really bad, because loads are paying less than they were ever before. Fuel is expensive.
Right.
There's less loads available, more waiting time. And besides just doing our best to keep people moving, and making the smartest moves, there's not a whole lot, to do. One thing we always try to do with our guys is go above and beyond on the customer service side. Reach out, don't ever leave people hanging. If people are waiting for a load, call them multiple times a day, give them an update, give them advice about moving, just check in. And then do whatever you can, small things to deliver some happiness to their day. But besides that, I mean, on a grander scale, we've spent, we talked about this as well, the last 10 years, I would say, building a strong foundation as a company, when it comes to having the right company culture, when it comes to having the right systems, when it comes to policies and procedures and all that. And when you do that, you're building vertically. When you do that, you're building horizontally, right? Sideways. Strength, stability of a structure. And we just need to start building vertically now. And we're finally getting there, making a big push now with trying to bring our own customers in, which would be a game changer for our drivers, because 96% of everything we do now is brokered loads. So we're having to compete with dozens of other carriers.
Right.
And I mean, you've been in the operations lately more than I have. You know how miserable of an existence that is.
It is indeed. Especially you have a lot of companies out there. It's a 2014 BHX, one truck or one van trying to get a load, and they have to, in order to be competitive, because they do not provide any other service than driving, they have to go super low on rate. Now we don't want that, right? Even if we need to, sometimes we don't necessarily want that, because we have much more to offer. Mm-hmm. So we have the whole 24/7. We have the customer service. We have 15 people working, 24/7 every day. And then we have technologies, and we have softwares, and we have tracking and everything that's those one or two vans companies do not. And that's why in that department, sometimes those mid-sized carriers or small to mid-sized carriers as us with 100 vans, they sometimes cannot compete with those one or two vehicles companies. Now, the blessing is there are out there companies, big companies, that value great service, that value 24/7, that value when you call someone, they're gonna pick up immediately. That's what we offer. And that's why majority of our loads is like maybe 5, 6 to 10 companies that we work with. So that's really a blessing that we have that partnership and connection.
The example I've given before, man, is like we're trying to set up a high-end, boutique in a flea market, and you're surrounded with knockoff Nikes, and the customers are okay with the knockoff Nikes, and you're trying to sell your real Nikes for $150 when the booth next to you is selling them for $30, and you're trying to tell your customer, but ours are actually high quality, they're going to last me, they're going to this and that, and the customer's saying, yeah, I care about that, but this is 30, that's 150. So that's what it is. We have to exit the flea market. We have to go to the customer. We have to show the customer why we are better than whoever they're currently using. And we are. I mean, and I say that with full humility, but we are, because I've been in the industry for 10 years, and I know what the industry considers as customer service. This is not an industry that prioritizes, high customer service. The pleases and the thank yous, and the politeness and showing empathy and taking ownership and being accountable and all of that stuff are things that we speak with our staff every single day. We aim to make every interaction an interaction where the person hangs up and goes, "Damn, these guys are good." They're on top of it. And that's not the common thing, man. And it's been frustrating for me when the brokers that give us work, that keep us busy, are inferior to us in technology, in professionalism, in everything, But it's part of the journey. I mean, it's part of the journey, and in life you reflect on where you are and where you could be, but that's all.
Right. On that topic, really, what do you think is the future of the industry? Where are we going? I mean, when I think about it, kind of last couple of years have been a slow to fast decline in the industry. Hopefully, there is a place, or there is a moment when it starts going up again.
I don't know, man. I've never been good at. I've never spent too much time studying or analyzing these things. I focus, and I want to focus on what we can control, and how it affects me. The industry, I really don't give a damn where it goes. What I want to do is make a place for ourselves and our company and our drivers and our staff, within wherever it's going. But beyond that, I don't care. At the end of the day, freight's going to have to be moved. And whether it's VHX Logistics that's coordinating that move, or ABC Logistics, that's between ABC and VHX. Whoever does a better job, whoever approaches the customer better, whoever wins the business is going to get it. I don't think the industry is going to die, so therefore that's probably the wrong approach. I don't know. I mean, I think generally speaking, people should.
People should. Companies should, I think, predict movements and something like that, what's going to happen. For example, slowly but steadily, everything is moving towards automation, AI. Something's going to happen in that department. It's going to get integrated. Something's going to happen, right?
Watch the video I sent you on Viber. We'll put it up on the screen so viewers can see. I want to see you live react to it.
All right, let's go.
It's the first thing in AI that's making me go, damn, I don't want this. I'm usually hip with it, and I was talking to Hamida and sharing this with her, and I was saying, man, usually when I see new things, I see the good in it. Whereas she's normally like, I don't want this is, but watch that.
All right, this is officially a dream come true, right? We got the NBA dashboard over here. I'm watching the NBA game. Let's go Heat, right? I can just grab the corner, make it smaller, but then I can also make it huge. Like, look how big I can make this thing.
This is the Apple
and it feels
glasses.
Like, it feels like it's in my space. Like, look, half my dog is not even
showing
up.
Surreal?
I'm walking through here. I'm going over here to grab this, right? Like, it just feels real. I got Twitter over there in the corner that I can just look at and then just swipe through. Like, it knows that I'm looking at it. Of course, everything is Vision Pro.
This is already out. Apple's $3,500 glasses.
Or if I want to click that open, grab this, move it behind me maybe, so it's not in my way of anything.
and tap to
Now I'm on YouTube. Let's pause that. Let me go back to the game.
Okay, go ahead and pause it.
Press play.
Or just Google real quick so you can see what they look like. Apple, whatever glasses. But they're see-through. So you can walk, you can live, there's a guy that spent the whole day wearing them, walking through New York City.
Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, so they're see-through, right? You can wear them and live your life. But then they display the hologramic, or not hologramic, what the hell am I saying?
The live video and pictures and everything. And how much this is?
3,500 USD.
Wow. But I'm not fully against it, man. I'm just for.
That terrifies me.
It doesn't. I mean, if people are able to, okay, we don't have a good track record of controlling anything or having control over.
We're not disciplined enough to
Right.
draw a line.
Yeah, because
Can
if
you
you.
imagine how immersive that is? That terrifies me. Because here's the scary part, man. I'll give you an example. When ChatGPT started becoming popular, and DALI, or whatever it's called, where you can draw something, I was showing my kids how cool it was. I was saying, hey, Ali, give me anything you want me to draw for you. And he'd say a dinosaur riding a skateboard. And I put it in, and the computer would draw that. To me, I was blown away, because it's new. You never seen that. To him, he said, yeah, cool, right? Because when you're young, what exists is just what you assume always existed. You know, it's almost like when old people now tell us, like, oh, back in my day, you know.
Yeah, but I think our brain is more capable of handling this modern things that is going on, such as these glasses and phones and virtual reality and whatnot, because we had that progress. Now, 60, 70 years ago, our parents and grandparents, they had to open up a window to look and see buildings and whatnot. Now we can sit in front of our desk and see everything on the other corner of the world. So it's our brain. I think our brain can work that fast to just pick up everything.
It can, but the level of immersion and what it's going to mean to society is what scares me. There's not going to be a need to even socialize anymore, right? Because when you combine that reality with AI, think about what could happen. There's a video we just watched of a guy sitting in his empty room, for example, and here he has a big TV, and here he has this and that. Now, when you can get AI friends and you code them for how you want them to be, and you put on your glasses, and your AI friend Aldin pops up.
Right.
And he's super nice to you. He compliments you all the time. He tells you funny jokes.
Right.
He loves playing video games.
Right. To that point, there is a great episode of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what I mean. That guy, he's a famous actor, but I cannot remember his name. He plays I don't know, CEO of some company, or maybe not CEO, whatever, CFO, whatever, COO of some company. And he has back home, he has virtual reality where he created the same people he worked with, he created in virtual reality. And he is kind of punishing them because he's not able to do that in real life. He goes home and has a completely different life where he controls over, people that he worked with.
Yeah. So that's scary to me, man. That's scary to me. That show's phenomenal. I actually watched an episode last night. Season 6 came out.
Really?
I didn't know, yeah. First episode.
Any good? I just watched like maybe first and second season and kind of fell off.
Show.
I fell off.
It's scary.
It is.
It's still scary, and it's here. We are entering Black Mirror territory. Because that AI exists. You can go to ChatGPT now and say, hey, let's build a profile for you. And you can make it a thing. They can easily then now transfer that into a visual being with those glasses.
Yeah.
And then you're deciding to hang out with your wife or your kids or friends, or put on your VR glasses and interact with these.
Yeah, there are things that will definitely go down as with the progress of AI. I think human population is going down because people will not be interacting or marrying or,
Virtual babies.
virtual babies. Now, the second thing that will go, it's just plain and simple human interaction and communication in real world will go down. And as you can see, it used to be when you're, I don't know, at a bus station or in tram or anywhere, you communicate with people around you. Now everything is like an elevator scene.
There's videos of that, of those glasses, because they just came out like a week. There's videos of people walking through New York City and they're wearing them, and like I said, they're see-through, so you can see your actual world, but you also see those things. So people are walking and they're doing this.
Insane.
Like
that's
not
insane.
Like a Black Mirror episode.
Right.
Real
yeah,
videos.
that's really insane and scary. Now, I was thinking about, I'm not afraid of those new AI glasses and whatnot, in a sense of if we can pick up like as fast as we should. I think our brain capacity is really, really underused.
No, they said that the brain adapts. They said the brain within one of the guys, Casey Neistat, I don't know if you've seen him. He's a big YouTube videographer guy. He said he spent the whole day, and he said within a few minutes, I forgot I was wearing them. Your brain just accepts that, there's a YouTube right here.
Yeah, so you're not going to trip and fall down every time you walk, because your brain is just going to process that. Yeah, that's the thing. But there is global impact. As I said, I think it's just that real life will suffer. Real people around you will suffer. Your family will suffer. Your friends will suffer, because you're going to create yourself someone you want to, hang out.
You go home and you've got a wife who's a human being with human being emotions and weaknesses and strengths, and you've got AI, you can have a wife on there who doesn't have any of those weaknesses, who doesn't nag you, who doesn't complain. People are going to fall for this, and I wonder what effect it's going to have on society, and that's the scary part, man. It's uncontrolled, right? Like, I feel like the people that are driving this, right, like we used to drive 100 miles an hour. AI has now enabled us, we found a little lever that we press, and there is no limit anymore. And the people that are driving are now driving 120, 30, 50, 200. And it's a race. So the people that are driving this forward are going to hit 500 miles an hour without thinking about what happens if we crash with this. Now, there's a whole deeper thing about when AI becomes actually, what is it called, like self-conscious and, getting to a point where it determines the need for humans, and it determines if humans are a net gain.
Yeah, to your earlier point, you said we're building company horizontally or structure, by structure, trying to have a good foundations. I think AI is doing the opposite, sadly, because we're not ready as a society, as a planet. We're not ready for that.
But there's no stopping it. That's the thing.
That's the thing as well, because it will build itself in a way.
Well, there's no stopping it unless every human being in the world came together and said, you know what, it's reckless for us to just keep building this thing horizontally. Let's take a moment. And they're not going to do that just because.
But there is always people, of high development, whatever, and people of being back in the Stone Age, still on the planet. So it's kind of like when we had I don't know, other evolutions in human society, such as Industrial Revolution. When we had that, and that was like 150 years ago, Westworld kind of like overnight, not overnight, but in a couple of years had to adapt to that. We're no longer manufacturing with our hands, we're now using machines, right? Mm-hmm. But then, in the same time, for another 100 years, you had people all over the world living in Stone Age or whatnot. Right. Not Stone Age, but you understand the difference. Now, with AI as well, is this gonna be just Western countries, then China, Australia?
Here's the difference, man. This is available, almost equally available to everybody. Parts of it are literally available to everybody. ChatGPT, ability to write things, ability to create images, ability to generate ideas, ability to solve complex problems. That's available in the poorest part of the world, as long as they have internet, right? I mean, obviously, there's still going to be pockets of the world that are, you know, just like there are tribes that are still living like the tribal life. You know, they haven't had any modern advancements. But we're not talking about those extremes, right? I don't know, man, because when you look at the end times, according to every major, you know, world philosophy or religion, it doesn't sound like AI is going to be a thing.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
So
It sounds like, although when those words were
Right.
uttered, you had to speak in terms of the people will understand. If prophet or philosopher, whoever spoke in
Sure.
modern terms, no one would, understand anything, I guess.
But I think it's more likely that that'll happen.
Maybe.
That AI will advance, and then something will happen to mess it up, and then it is going to be more along the lines of the actual way that things are prophesized. Not, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that the end times happen closer to the way things were 1,000 years ago, or now?
I think this we'll kind of have a maybe reset or something,
Yeah.
and then the end times will happen in those kind of circumstances.
Yeah.
It's most logical. Civilizations go up and they go down. They build themselves up and they decline. Like Roman Empire, we were in Italy a couple of weeks ago. Roman Empire, they were world badasses for like 800 years, and then 200 years after they were destroyed by barbarians or whatnot, half of the Europe didn't know they even existed, right? It's crazy, right? And then the people in England would find walls and they say there was an empire 300 years ago. They were,
The British accent.
yeah, no, not that good.
Same thing happens on a micro level too, man. Like you have companies now that 10 years ago were like giants. We're talking about Skype. I think,
Yeah, Skype.
It was like a giant within its time. AOL, Yahoo was big.
Yahoo.
And then overnight somebody comes and does what they do a little bit better, and then the tide shifts and everything moves in that direction. Italy was fun.
It was.
That was the first time I went. Good people, very polite, very happy, very joyous people, phenomenal food, great history. Obviously, I mean you're in like one of the top 5 most historically dense cities in the world, and we went on our own, to see some of the tours. But I would love to go, not really with a tour guide, but I would love to go with a local that is very, very knowledgeable of the history.
Right.
Because there's a difference, man, when someone can, when you see something beautiful, cool, it's beautiful, maybe a tidbit. But we use ChatGPT as our guide.
Oh man, good guy.
Yeah,
Good guy.
Let's say, we're currently here. Please tell me fun facts about this place, and it would. But even that, man, like someday, someday is wrong. Within the next 5 years, you'll see people in Italy, in Rome, with those virtual glasses, with a virtual guide, because everywhere you look, it can detect where you're looking, and it knows that place. So if you look at the Colosseum, the guide, who's a virtual guide, is going to be able to say, oh, Munir, that's the Colosseum that was built in this and this date. And you're going to say, oh, that's pretty cool, man. What was it used for? And it's going to say, oh, yeah, one of the things. And then we're talking about this, it's going to say something like, would you like me to show you, what the battles looked like? And it's not going to be robotic, because we're used to, like, AI being robotic, like Siri is like, oh, the weather outside is. No, it'll be conversational.
Right.
And then it'll show you little holograms of gladiators fighting in there. So that's the part of AI.
Don't we really want that, man?
That's cool to me. It's exciting, but it's scary because of how appealing it's going to be.
I don't know.
It'll be so hard to draw.
I don't know if AI could ever be better than just speaking with a real human being.
It will never be better, but it will appear to be better, and it will be more convenient. So therefore,
Yeah, well, eventually you'll see behind that charade, I
but
guess.
you'll see after the effects of it have been felt by the society. That's my theory.
Right.
Right. You'll see after the society crumbles as a result of it. Not literally crumbles, but after, like right now, why is there so much depression, especially in the Western world? Anxiety, suicide. Like the richest countries in the world, man, where people are living convenient lives.
The highest suicide rate, I think, is Norway and Sweden. They have like everything set up.
They have everything set up, but I think there's less human interaction. There's less purpose of life. There's less meaning in life. You know, AI creates this thing where it doesn't beg the question about what's the purpose? Where am I going? Why am I here? Why am I going through this trial? You know, we talked about this, the modern day books of, you know, personal, professional development,
right.
entrepreneurship, versus the old school classics and you know, Russian books in particular that we talked about.
Exploration of soul.
Right. Exploration of soul is the foundation. This other stuff is building horizontally.
Yeah, soul, morals, ethics, you know, everything that human.
It gives you a purpose. It gives you an understanding. It helps you understand pain. It helps you understand love. So, I think Bosnia is a master at that. I think people here are so learned when it comes to that genre, right? And they have a deeper understanding of those things. And I think in the U.S., and I don't know if I should say the Western world, but in the U.S. in particular, that's absent for most part. I think 95% of the population has not read any of those classics.
Yeah, I think it's more a U.S.-Europe thing, because in Europe, everywhere, from my experience, and I met people from almost every country in Europe, there is a similar understanding of that. And from the early age, you're exposed to European heritage of, I don't know, Russian novels, French novels, or Italian poetry or something like that.
So I think that's why in the U.S., I mean, innovation happens. Capitalism is like king, right? I mean, everyone has got whatever they want, but depression, anxiety, this and that is so high. And I think that this AI advancement will just further that, right? Because
that's the fear.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, human interaction can never be replaced, ever. You know, true emotions and feelings. But what is the modern day world telling us? They're saying, well, there is no emotions. Emotions are just a chemical reaction inside your body that happens when A mixes with B, and then happiness happens.
Right.
Instead of saying like however classical people would say, what is joy, right? Like how do classic books define joy, happiness, sorrow?
Right. We kind of speak in separate terms as AI and then humans, but a lot of the new scientists or people from that field, and I watched this on Joe Rogan Experience, I don't know who it was, but they said something in the line of the future is AI connecting with the human, so you keep human elements that you have and everything that's nice and dandy about us human beings. Cyborg. And then you're getting an implant or whatnot, a chip, and you're getting that AI info. So you're getting like the whole internet, you know it. Whole everything.
You know every president.
Plus you have your own, you know every president. So there's no need for learning or education.
But you don't know. You don't really know. You just know data.
You know that,
But you don't know. You don't have knowledge.
Right. You don't. Yeah, information and knowledge, two different things, right?
Yeah. As Theo Von says, yeah, man. What else did I want to ask you about?
Right. We're kind of.
It's hard to come back and talk about, you know,
sprinter vans
when you go from.
But still, AI will affect them as well. I guess there will be a time, maybe not so quickly, but in 20, 30, 40 years, I don't know if you're going to drive a lot. You know, I don't know, you had Tesla, you know how it goes.
I think that, I mean, self-driving cars will become a thing, I think, within 30, 40 years, if the world hasn't imploded or exploded.
Man, remember, I don't know if you watched that movie, I, Robot or something like that.
Yeah,
Will Smith. That was 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And the whole society was just self-driving back then. And now it's probably it's going to be a reality in maybe 20, 30 years.
Yeah, it could be very easily. And those are the shifts that I don't mind within the industry, because I understand that people that drove will simply move on to other. But it just feels like there's too much, because people keep wanting to compare it to the industrial revolution or this or that, or But I think this is too widespread, because this AI advancement affects every aspect of every job. It's not limited to one industry. Like bakers can be replaced by robots who can bake better bread than the baker, because you feed it the perfect recipe and it'll do it within a grain of salt without messing up every single time, whereas a baker cannot, right? Mechanics. You have a human being diagnosing why a car is making a noise, or you have an AI robot that can scan the car, see every single nail and screw and every loose thing behind everything.
I know, but our human understanding of life and a human understanding of a world, I think is more nuanced than a science could just put it in.
And this is actually, kind of a gateway to come back to earth in this conversation.
Right.
I think there's always going to be a need for humans to be human, for humans to interact with other humans on a human level. With us here, right, in BHX, we're going through the same AI revolution that's happening in the world. We're trying to find our place within it, right? And we're trying to automate a lot of our tasks. And I embrace that. I love that. I hope that every single task that can be automated is automated. But my desire for that is not so I can stay on payroll for 10 or 15 people. That's small thinking. My desire is then to make those 10 or 15 people do high IQ, high intelligence, high emotional intelligence human tasks that AI can never do.
Right.
And that's connecting with people, connecting with drivers, building relationships, thinking of new ideas. AI can execute something to perfection, but it can't think of something. But I still think that humans will lead AI when it comes to ideas, because I don't know that it's capable of sitting there and creating an idea that doesn't exist. That's the beauty of humans, right? Like AI, whatever hundreds of years ago would have said, a object cannot fly, because that goes against the laws of whatever. Whereas humans dare to say, how can we fly? There's got to be a way, and then we do it, right?
Right.
And I might be wrong about whether AI can do that or not, but I think generally speaking, we're going to be the ones that drive innovation and ideas and pushing the line, and then connecting with people, and that's where I want our staff to be, and as far as the mundane tasks of clicking buttons and entering data into a system and even responding to emails, if it's basic stuff, like yes or no responses and things like that, hopefully we have AI doing that. And hopefully the only time that we have humans responding to emails is if there needs to be some big email about, like some big explanation about why something failed or didn't happen, or
right.
But even that AI will probably compile the actual wording of the email.
Yeah. Do you think let me give you a comparison. So you can have the same ingredients for a stew, mm-hmm. and then you make that stew and you eat it, and then you can have your mother make that stew with the same ingredients, and it's different. Emotion is something that's not easily. I don't know. We already defined that AI won't be able to do it, but that's why that scientific process of you can have a robot make that stew with the same ingredients as your mother,
sure,
but it will not taste the same. So that's something that we need to understand as human beings before we think that there is a scientific way of doing anything.
Sure.
You just need to write down ingredients and that's
But even that, the presentation is what makes a difference. The presence of your mother is what makes a difference. So theoretically, if the robot can make the stew for your mother, and she's just the one that brings it out and hands it to you and sits with you, it's not her actually pouring and mixing, and that makes the difference.
It's hard to believe. I don't know. I might be fighting against AI in this, but I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah.
I don't. There's the Italians like to say, making food with love.
Yeah.
There's something to it. Maybe that's a secret ingredient that's not like a pepper or salt. Probably.
I don't know. I think that the surrounding and the circumstance invokes emotion, which strengthens our love for something. I do think that exists, but I think that can be done by simply now maybe. Part of that emotion is knowing that your mother went through the effort of doing that because she loves you, so therefore your emotions or your appreciation or enjoyment of that thing is more enhanced, right? Like if you live on top of a mountain, and if I'm coming to visit you and I have to climb up the mountain to visit you, you're going to appreciate my visit. Not only the conversation we have, but it's enhanced by you appreciating the fact that I went through that struggle to get up there. Versus if I'm flown up with a helicopter.
Might be. Yeah, might be. I understand.
The conversation might be, might be different. So even though it's the same conversation, but it might be different just because that first piece was.
Yeah.
And this is the conversation that doesn't happen in the U.S. because, and in the modern world where we deduce everything down to a chemical reaction, right? Like when you say love, it doesn't really exist. Love is just, your brain releasing this and then this happening. When that mixes, this chemical gets formed, and that gives you the feeling of this. You're unable to have these conversations about appreciating your mother's food.
Right. If that's what love is, make that chemical and put it in a robot, and let's see what happens.
Oh God, make love robots.
Right. Back to our vans.
Jose.
You've been a driver.
I have.
Give me a breakdown of your day.
Man, being a driver is tough. Being a driver with a Sprinter van is tougher than being a professional driver in any field. I applaud our guys to stick with the Sprinter van for as long as they have. They're not built to be lived in. You can customize it. You can make it closer to being inhabitable, but it's never really fully meant to be a vehicle that you're supposed to live in. I can speak for our experience in the industry. I think anybody who wants to succeed and make $2,000 to $3,000 a week has to be able to be on the road for about 10, 15 days on average. That means that sometimes they'll be gone for 3 weeks, and other times they'll be gone for 1 week. I think the longest I ever stayed out was 20, 21 days or something like that. And I was with a young baby at home that I hadn't seen, and it's tough. But just dealing with traffic all day, dealing with weather, dealing with appointments, dealing with phone calls from dispatch, dealing with rude shippers and rude receivers. It's not an easy gig, and one of the struggles for us, or for me here, was all of our dispatchers had no prior experience. You've never been a driver, right?
Right.
And it's hard to make people understand how to, speak with drivers when you've never been a driver.
Right. On this Italy trip, I drove for the last 400 miles when we were, getting there through Italy, and I really, as someone in Bosnia who only drives, 100 to 150 miles max, ever on any trip.
Mm-hmm.
You know, driving 400 miles, man, then I understood really when you're talking with driver in the beginning of the day, early morning, and you say, we got you a load, it's 400 miles, short but sweet. There's nothing short about it, man. 400 miles is a long ass trip.
We've had loads, man, where like I'll often go to Chicago or stuff like that from St. Louis, and it's like a 300-mile trip, and it's a whole experience. And we've had loads where a driver has near 300 empty miles. Yeah, it's 300 is extreme, but you know, we
It happens.
150, 200. We have had 300. And there's something psychological about driving that much just to start the race. You know, so drivers are always like, man, you know, and then dispatchers don't understand why drivers react so negatively to empty miles. They go, well, they're paid, you know, you're getting paid for loaded and empty.
Right.
There's just something psychological. For me, there's really two memories that come to mind. One was I was in Laredo one time for, I think, 3-4 days waiting for a load. And I've been up bidding on loads all day. And Hamida was, you know, at home dealing with stuff at home. And then near the end of the day, I was beginning to kind of shut down and get ready for bed or whatever, and she was still looking for loads. And I got ready. I went to lay down. And then she sent me a message at like 11 p.m. and she called me and said, hey, there's a load available. If you want, I can bid on it or you know. And it's like, you don't know what to say, you know, because you're like, of course I want it, bid on it. But then you're like, I hope I don't get it, you know? Because you want to go to bed, man. You've been up all day. And this is another thing that where drivers, sometimes dispatchers like, well, just go to sleep, you know, and then when we find you a load, you'll be ready to drive. I mean, people are not robots. They can't just switch off and go to sleep whenever.
Right. That's a good analogy.
And then the other one is one of the best experiences of my life was with Azra, with my sister, who works for the company now. She was on summer break, I think, and I booked a load to like Tennessee. So I invited her. I'm like, hey, come with me, you know, we'll drop this off. She did. And we were supposed to then come back, you know, but then we booked another one to like Oklahoma or something after. And then from Oklahoma, we booked to Texas. And then from Texas, we booked to whatever. And it ended up being a 20-day trip. We ended up doing like 10, 15 loads or something insane. But we were in Laredo for a number of days. We were in Los Angeles, in San Diego, in Portland, in Seattle, in Vancouver.
Wow.
We were down to Detroit, and then from Detroit, it was Druma. I was at Druma. She got us booked, actually. She booked the load to St. Louis area.
She knows how to book loads?
She did at the time. she still knows how to. But it was awesome, man. Like in Los Angeles, we went to, what's it called, the beach. Is it South Beach? There's a beach in Los Angeles area that's like, I forget what it's called.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Vancouver was fun. Laredo. I mean, it was such a cool trip. So it's just one of those things, you know. I mean, that's how life goes.
You were at the brink of saying Laredo was, and then you.
Yeah, there's not much fun about Laredo. It's just it's like a border town. There's nothing really fun to see or do or whatever. It's tough to get a load out. And but on that trip, one of the loads we were doing, it was a night drive. The whole van was full. Like no room for me to lay, type of full. We ended up getting a hotel for 2 hours just so I can get a little nap. So stopped at a hotel for 2 hours, got back up and continued driving. At this time of it, you know, a hotel was not like something I could just get. Like it was like a financial decision. You know, we had to have a board meeting to discuss that the board had to approve. You know, was a hotel in the budget at the time. And I remember, man, like we found the hotel and we were driving, and I missed an exit, and I had to drive. It was the weirdest thing, like 13 miles to the next exit where I could come back and turn around.
Wow.
So that 15 minutes and then 15 minutes back ended up like losing a quarter of the rest of the time that I had.
Oh.
But it's funny in life, man. You know, these things happen, and you look back on them with such fondness. Like the biggest, most difficult things you go through in life, you were able to reflect back with fondness once the trial is over. And it's important to try to remember that as we go through different
Right.
tribulations.
We had those. I mean, everyone did. I mean, personally, but we as a company also, we had those.
We have.
But it is what it is. You know, those are like lessons, life lessons. If they're considered the life lessons, you know, there's nothing wrong or there's nothing bad about them. And I mean, in that moment, you think like the world is gonna break apart, but then
Right.
a year later or 2 years later, you look at it and say,
How do you keep from not thinking the world is going to break apart at the moment, though? That's so hard.
"Why? It is difficult because you're dealing with problems
Wow.
right there and then live."
There's that story we listened to, the Chinese farmer.
Yeah, yeah,
How does it go? Chinese farmer, a wild horse runs up to his home and stays there, and his son, whatever, captures it, and the neighbors come over and say, "Hey, this is a great thing that happened to you." And he said, "We'll see,
maybe.
maybe." And the next day, the son is trying to tame the horse. No, the horse runs away. But the horse runs away, and everyone says, "This is such a bad thing that happened to you." And he said, "Maybe." And the next day, the horse comes back with a bunch of wild horses, and they tamed them, and they said, "Well, this is the best thing that happened." And he said, "Maybe." And then his son, while trying to work out with the horses, gets injured, breaks his leg, and everyone says in the town, "This is the worst thing that happened." He said, "Maybe, we'll see." And then the army comes trying to recruit for a battle, and they don't take his son because of his injury, and everyone says, "This is the best thing that happened to you." And he said, "Maybe, we'll see."
Yeah.
So yeah, man, if you can go through life like that. I heard a Islamic story. It's kind of similar to that. Maybe you probably know it. Of a scholar who was giving a lecture to his students, and somebody comes to the room and whispers something, and he just says,
Oh yeah,
"Alhamdulillah." Go ahead.
yeah. He just said Alhamdulillah, and the news was his boat with his merchandise, whatever. He was not only a scholar, he was merchant. Yeah, sank, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said Alhamdulillah, and later on, that person came again and said something to his ear, and he said Alhamdulillah. And the message was that it was a mistake. It was not actually his boat. There was mix up. And then students later asked him, why did you say Alhamdulillah twice today? And he explained that once he thought his merchandise is gone, and another one he was informed that it was not.
Right.
So you never know what's good.
Yeah, he said, "I reflected upon my heart, and I noticed no change in my gratitude for his God.
Right.
When I thought it sank, or when I so the Alhamdulillah was actually me showing gratitude that my heart had not changed.
Right.
Depending on the news.
I missed the main thing.
That's the Imam, man.
Yeah.
You missed the main thing.
I missed the main thing.
But the rest of it was accurate.
Right.
What do you think, man? How's your what is your assessment of our readiness as a company to push forward to reach these heights? Because 2024 could be an enormous year for us. Like, I feel personally like we could be 50 times bigger than we are by the end of this year, or we could not.
All right.
Both are equally.
Well, you try to get ready as much as you can, structurally, organizationally, with staff, with everyone. You try to prepare, but then you never know what you're going to encounter. And it's kind of like how you cross from that position of being inferior to a position where you are actually able to play a major role in anything. It's not everything down to preparation. It has to be, you know, of course, the luck and the blessing from God, I guess, you know, plays a big part. And but as long as the fundaments are correct, the structure, you know, of the building is strong, whatever comes up will be able to then go vertically.
Right.
If we fail there, whatever we get will just be a short-lived experience, I guess.
Yeah.
We should look for a long run, you know, of course. If we're able to tame the beast of progress, to put it like that, you know, on a long run, we can expect, you know, amazing things for our staff, for our drivers, company in general. But as I said, it's everything is down to that structure and how the structure will hold up to the that vertical next floor, and the next floor again. We should be aiming to build a structure, of course, without that Bosnian roof.
Right.
But that we can add floors to.
Yeah. So as far as that roof goes, man, as you mentioned, I've spent my adult life in the U.S. You know, the land of opportunity, the American dream, the rags to riches stories, the
Right.
believe in yourself. You know, where movies, every other movie is about an underdog who through hard work and perseverance made it to the top. Here, I personally find that that doesn't exist as much. You know, instead, what exists is what what will always be. It's pointless to try to fight for anything more. I think that in many companies, employees are really their growth is limited. They don't have an opportunity to really get ahead. They don't have an opportunity to provide a better life for themselves if the company grows. You know, because employers do not go out of their way to appreciate employees in any way. They don't see them as, you know, viable members important members of the company, but they just see them as replaceable pieces. So for me, that's the one thing I've struggled with, to adapt and to bring the American perspective, the American dream, and we can do this, and you know, what's good for one is good for all type of thing. Here, and I find that, you know, the default thinking for most people is, what's the point? I mean, whatever we have now, if this is the building we work in now, this is the building we're going to work in forever, and that's it. Can you comment on that from your standpoint, on seeing me go through that? How is it perceived, you think, by our staff, or by, like, if I try to explain what we try to do here to my family, they look at me like I'm crazy. Like when we took that trip to Turkey, I think my whole family thought I was insane. Like my uncles and aunts and cousins, and you know, my cousins would be like, "You did what?"
Right.
I go, it's like you're insane. If I try to tell anyone here that we implemented a book club, if I try to tell my cousins or my uncles and aunts or anyone, like, oh yeah, we're doing this thing where we're making our people read, it's a book club, and they have to read these type of books, and then we're paying them extra to do that.
That's just an unknown approach, I guess, and we as a country, we're culturally, structurally, economically, and in every sense, we're going through a transition from old communist, sadly, regime still, to a more capitalist, more open market and everything. So we've had that. Sadly, the transition in Bosnia has taken already 30 years, not 30, but close to 30 years. And it's not only economic transition, it's also a cultural transition. We still have a communist skeleton ruling in a way, or ingrained into political parties. Then you have people that live their best years in communism, you know, explaining life to their children without providing them guidance in this new open world and new system that we live in. And those, until we have that whole turnover. We had the people that were part of that, in a way, gone, replaced with new generations fully on every level, because new generations are still not even represented 15 to 20% on any level, so that they can bring the new thing, right? Then we'll have that kind of cultural shift, hopefully.
Right.
Now,
how do we navigate that and do it correctly with our company?
well, with what we have, in the limits that we have, we lead the charge. Because if we just wait for that to happen, right, it's not going to happen, right? For us, we need to lead the charge in our own sense. For us, in our company, establish that culture with people that really want that culture, and move forward.
Yeah.
Now, if they want to pick up, amazing. If they don't, sadly, there are a lot of companies out there that are not thinking about that. So we want to have people around us that are able to bring and have those values that we think are necessary,
right,
for us. Yes, as in any, the great analogy always is a sport clubs or football clubs, NBA or whatever. They set up culture. That's why a lot of the clubs, when they have a manager like Jurgen Klopp in Liverpool, that was a manager for 9 years, they're not just gonna continue on doing the same thing. If they want to bring a new manager in, they want to bring a new set of cultures, new everything, like from top to bottom. And that's it. He establishes his culture, his core values, his team, and his everything. And they build upon that. Now, there are, of course, some universal core values for everyone, and there should be. But for us as a company, of course, it's important that we have those, and that we have people that are, willing to go at lengths to uphold those. That's
what's been. You came in to this company with limited professional work experience, right?
Yeah.
And a few months.
I'm still young, by the way. Yeah, so it's not like I was 35 and I had limited.
You a few months later, you got promoted to a manager.
Right.
What's been your biggest growth in that role? What's been your biggest, like, where you look back now and you go, man, I was.
Here's the thing. I became a manager, and I was what we call in Latin tabula rasa, or I was completely empty bottle, an empty vessel, I guess. And I had to learn everything. So I had to learn everything. Maybe I just had some universal core values in me, as in hard work, as in being nice to people, I guess, and being able to control the public and crowd and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I had to learn everything.
What's helped you learn? What's Go ahead.
Yeah, what helped me learn is, of course, to a high percentage yourself.
Sure.
Then 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 I was exposed, and much of it by you as well. I was exposed to American approach to professionalism.
Yeah.
Of course, I was nice to people always, but customer service was unknown to me, as it was for pretty much everyone in the team.
Yeah.
Then learning those values, and learning the professional side that US can offer. Then reading about it, watching a lot of documentaries, a lot of podcasts about it. As a manager or as a company, the greatest accomplishment, I would say, is navigating ship through a constant storms of the industry, and that in a way that we never sank, that we were able to support our drivers in the best way possible, that we didn't lose that we didn't go Wild West, that we didn't go start cheating our customers, start cheating our drivers. That, of course, that starts from the top of the company, but there are ways to do that on the lower level as well, in order just to have the ship not sink.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I think that one of the accomplishments for the people, and for the people that are under me, in ways that I never. There is in Bosnia that when someone is boss, and then suddenly the power eats him
Sure.
in a way, and he starts disrespecting everyone. And I always try to be fair to everyone, and I always try to have the approach of if I'm treating someone good, I'll have that back. So
yeah, it's been an interesting journey, man, because I used to be uncomfortable with people saying, "Are you the boss or the owner?" I would say yes, but it was a tough yes. I don't know why. I just felt uncomfortable with the answer. And I think when I would speak with people or staff and give feedback and advice and instructions, that lack of comfort of me being within that role would lead me to engage in unnecessary thoughts and conversations and depth and all of that. We're finally, I feel like I am starting to fit into the role that I have, and I feel like you're starting to fit into your role as well. And that role, is of an expert within that field. And conversation should always be had with staff. You should always hear what somebody says. But you should also be enough of a matter expert to be able to say, "Perfect, thank you for sharing that. With all due respect, this is how we do it. This is why we do it this way." It's almost like if, an expert car mechanic. If somebody wants to come up to him and give him some other viewpoint on what he thinks might be causing a noise in the car, sure, he should be humble enough to hear him out, and he should, respect the other party enough to hear him out. But beyond that, he should be able to say, "Listen, man, I've done this for a very long time. I've fixed this, very, very many times. This is what's happening. This is what's causing it. So this is what we're going to do to fix it. Let's go ahead and do that," right? Whereas in the past, I felt like both of us would know or would think we know what it is to fix it, but then we would engage and we would say, "Well, thank you." You know what I mean?
I know
It's
what you mean,
yeah. But that comes with confidence. That comes with confidence in your own judgment and your own ability. For me, the last year or so has been transformational. Just being exposed to certain people in the entrepreneurial space. We both went through 75 hard. I'd like to speak on that for a minute as well. 75 days, followed a certain diet, exercise twice a day, drink a gallon of water, read 10 pages, and took a progress picture every single day. Something I would say less than 1% of the world has done. So that's a cool badge of honor. When you go through that, it gives you a certain level of additional confidence in yourself. Right?
It does. 75 hard was nice, was fun. It's about making commitments and upholding them. Whatever the diet is, whatever whatever the book is, as long as it's not a fiction, I guess it teaches you upholding commitments, and that's the highest form of 75 hard, I guess, that someone can get. Now, the 75 hard is hard, but harder is days after 75 hard. 76 and 77, and it gives you habits and gives you nice habits of exercising, of especially makes you uncomfortable when you have to exercise outside every day for 75 days, but then 76, 77, 78.
We both failed on that.
We both failed on that.
And that was my biggest worry too.
Yeah.
Because it's like the one thing I wanted to take away was discipline. If I say, okay, it's 75 hard, you were exercising 14 times a week, right? Well, let's commit. Let me commit to 5 times a week. Let me commit to 3 times a week. But let me have the same level of commitment as I committed to 14 times.
Sure.
So it was a fun journey, but I think that even going through it gives you confidence. I think in life, man, going through tough things and succeeding in them is how confidence is built, And I think confidence translates from personal life to business to everything else.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to moving our staff in a direction where we are all we have the same core values. You know, we recently, for the company, rolled out core values that we want to operate by on a daily basis. Things like delivering happiness, bringing enthusiasm, being disciplined, integrity above all, and other things that we spoke about in another video. And making those things actually active rather than just writings on the wall. We both heard a saying, you know, core values is what tells you what to do when you don't know what to do.
Right.
Right. So I think what makes us Royal Blue Services here unique in Boston is I don't know that there's many companies that are trying to make core values a living, you know, like 15th member of the team, you know, a live type of thing. The book club, you know, we're getting people to open their mind to that personal and professional development, read books about entrepreneurs who made it before them, read books, you know, written by experts in different, you know, different matters. And we're paying people to read books.
Right.
I think if we can continue to bring in the right people, and you know, like you said earlier, it's not about forcing anybody to buy into our vision. You know, like we keep
Right.
saying we want a team who has bought into the vision we have. But it's not about convincing or selling anyone. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a million philosophies, and I'm not arrogant enough to say that my philosophy is the best one or the only one. But it is what we have, and it is what we think is the best. So we're going to look for people that have that same mindset and mentality and that same pursuit. I mean, ultimately, people that don't, you know, are going to find a company that's more in line with their own values and visions. And I think that there's plenty of people that are hungry for this type of thing we're trying to do. And that's why, you know, what one of our employees, man, he said, we're destined to succeed. And it was said by someone that hadn't expressed that level of confidence before. And that gave me an additional boost, actually.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if we can continue to crack away at it, and we can continue to build the right staff, and we can continue to build the right company culture, I think, God willing, we are destined to succeed. And I think that ending the year, you know, 50 times bigger than we are, as ridiculous as that is to even say, it's something that's there, that's on the table, and if you want it bad enough, you get it. And if I mean, 50 times is ridiculous, right? But if we double, triple what we are now, everybody's benefits, everyone's pay, everyone's job satisfaction doubles or triples. You know, one thing we always say is with working here, it's not going to be easy. We don't want it to be easy, right? Because if people's days are easy, that means we're not trying, we're not pushing hard enough. We want every single day to come in and to push ourselves to the limits. Because that's how you win. That's how you win championships. Real Madrid, Liverpool, or whoever, they don't have easy trainings. Do they?
They don't.
No, every single day is pushing every player to this ultimate level. But that's why they win, you know? People want to win. One more thing I want to talk about before we finish, because we talked about this the other day as well. Chess. Let's talk about
Chess.
Chess and pawns and
Oh,
yeah.
I love chess.
Do you?
I do. I'm not a great player.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do play, but I love chess. I love just what it represents. I know a bit about the history of chess. I know a couple of openings, and that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about how chess compares to life, and talking about employees and the default, maybe the level of responsibility people want. You know, everyone we've ever interviewed, if you ask them, you know, what do you hope, how would you like your career to play out? They talk about wanting to be a manager or a leader of some sort, having more responsibilities than they're starting off with.
Autonomy, independence, and creativity, and something like that.
Right. One thing I'm learning lately is that not everyone is built for that, and not everybody really wants that. People want the benefits of that thing, but they don't want the responsibility that comes with it, right? The autonomy is nice when you can make your own decisions, but when you're held responsible for the decisions you made, that's when autonomy is no longer fun. When someone questions a decision you made, and you made the wrong decision, and you have to sit there and live the consequences of it, that's when it's no longer fun. That's where most people are unable to cope with it. And we were talking about chess, with pawns are limited in the moves they can do. And in order to, the difference between a pawn and the more advanced pieces is their ability to make those advanced moves.
Right.
Making advanced moves requires learning, requires the responsibility of making those advanced moves. Most people, most employees, not necessarily here, because we try to bring in people that think differently, but most people want to live their professional life like a pawn, where they do the tasks that they're given without the additional responsibility required to do other tasks. And they want to remain a pawn, and then they're surprised, when they're sacrificed by the company, or when the company, prioritizes someone else or gives someone else an opportunity to grow. The new modern day thinking when it comes to just growth in general is this, if the company wants me to do more, they should pay me. And Jose fell. If the company wants me to do more, they should pay me to do more, and then I'll show them what more I can do. And that's saying I'm going to remain a pawn until I'm put in the spot of being a queen or being a castle, and then I'm going to show them that I'm capable of doing queen or castle moves.
Right, without actually going to the end of the board and getting himself promoted to be a rook or knight or whatever.
Right, and that's so silly to me. I mean, as an employer, but also as a person, as an employee of the past, like, I never would say, well, you know what, if a company wants to promote to do more, then they should promote me to a higher position. Because I understand in life you have to prove yourself in everything. Like, if Real Madrid is going to sign you, you have to show what you're capable of before they sign you. If you go to propose to a woman, you have to show her what you're capable of before she says yes. You can't say, just marry me, and then I'll show you how great of a guy I am.
Right.
So that's the other thing, that we're going through as a company, trying to find the best way to bring in people that truly are willing to live up to those more advanced roles, and trying to avoid people that want to spend their whole career being a pawn. And again, that requires being able to handle the responsibility of autonomy, the responsibility of having additional freedoms and responsibilities.
Right, it's a really, really deep analogy to what we experience, what any company experiences. Lately, there has been discussions over, over that. Even especially in U.S., I guess, when people are capable and then they're promoted, versus people that are just promoted because we want to include them. Right? Inclusivity. And that's why in that inclusivity, companies will eventually crumble, and people that are promoted because they're capable and because they're willing to go to the end of the board and promote themselves from being a pawn to being a queen, that's a whole different company.
We're running out of time, but one thing I want to mention, man, is what's scary about being someone who lives in the U.S., being an American in a way, is that inclusivity started off at Starbucks. and it's just people making your coffee. You know, it doesn't matter that much if you're bringing in the most qualified coffee makers. And then it went into, you know, let's say education. Well, it matters a bit more because they're teaching. But now it's at the highest levels, man. Like inclusivity, and maybe that's not the right word, but like an army, it shouldn't just be about equality of representing everyone equally. It should be the most qualified because this is who's defending the country. And then politics on the highest levels. I heard the House Speaker, or I don't know, I think it was the House Speaker a few months ago, opened a speech by saying, you know, yes, so here we have in the White House working for us, whatever it was, you know, 5 members of the LGBTQ community, and we have 5 women, and we have 5 people of color, and we have 5 this and that.
Yeah, who cares, man?
And it's like, if that's your focus, and you're bringing in people that are not necessarily most qualified, but you're just trying to fill roles, it's dangerous for the country as a whole.
Sure it is. If I was Russia and China, I would be, you know, jumping up and down on those.
It's scary. There's that commercial, the army commercial, and they're comparing the American one and the Russian one. And the Russian one is like Drago over there running through a forest, and, you know, in the Russia, we crush our enemy. And then the American commercial is some woman that's saying, when I was a little girl, all I dreamt about was this and that. And all I'm saying is we should bring in
The most qualified in everything.
If it's all women, then it's all women. Wonderful. If it's all men, then it's all men. But when you start to sacrifice quality over political correctness and inclusivity, that's dangerous for an organization.
Indeed.
This has been a fun conversation, man. It went better than we thought it did.
It was, man.
I look forward to doing this again. The lighting kind of messed us up.
Absolutely. It did. Well, that's nature. You cannot fight it, I guess.
Right? That's right. Good, cool. We'll conclude there.
All right. Thank you, sir.